If students are going to learn to think for themselves, they have to have the freedom to speak for themselves. It's a very dark time, and if students can't learn about fundamental rights and liberties on campus, if they don't learn the importance of the Bill of Rights, I don't know how we're ever going to restore civil liberty in the outside world off campus. They have to be able to, they have to almost be forced to or required to defend their ideas. That's how you deepen and develop your ideas, by defending them, by going into intellectual combat with people who have very different ideas and very different perspectives that are opposed to your own. That's how people learn how to think. There is this trend towards protecting students from whatever is considered offensive or insulting or uncivil speech. And the consequence of that is that they get out into the world and they don't know how to argue. I'm afraid we're going to be plagued for a very long time by these mindless, stupid, mindless shouting matches that now dominate our political debate. You know, it's one of the ironies of this drive for civility that when you label argument or any kind of offensiveness as incivility, and you write all these civility codes and you discourage people from vigorously arguing or engaging in satire that makes fun of other people or makes fun of their sacred cows, the irony is that you end up encouraging incivility because people don't know how to argue. They don't know what to do when confronted with an idea they really don't like. They don't have an administrator they can go complain to. And so they just shout it down because they haven't learned how to do anything else. This crusade against bullying is the latest package for a very familiar crusade against offensive, allegedly harmful, hurtful speech. It's been taken to extremes. We know that. We have bullying is so broadly defined that it can include everything from eye-rolling to seriously tormenting somebody to physical assault. And that's one of the problems with it. I mean, there are obvious problems with it from a free speech perspective. It's just another way of teaching people that you don't have a right to offend other people. You don't have a right to make people uncomfortable. And in a free society, you have every right to make other people uncomfortable. But the other problem with bullying laws is that there is such a thing as bullying. I mean, there are students who are very cruelly tormented. And the more broadly we define bullying, the more meaningless we make the concept. And the more, in a way, we trivialize the real problems of bullying. I think we started down the road to where we are now back in the 1980s. We had this pop therapy movement that talked about people's vulnerabilities, said that we were all victims of abuse, said that verbal abuse could be just as bad as physical abuse. At the same time, there was rising concern about diversity and multiculturalism, and a sense that students from historically subordinate groups were especially vulnerable, and that they had civil rights not to be insulted or offended because racist speech or sexist speech or homophobic speech was just another form of discrimination. It was just another form of subordination. And so that had to be stopped. And then at the same time, in the 1980s, we had the feminist anti-pornography movement, and we had McKinnon and Dworkin coming up with their novel theories about pornography being a civil rights violation, and pornography being an actual assault. You know, you can still hear anti-porn feminists who will talk about pornography not even as speech that causes violence, but as speech that is violence. So there was this conflation, this complete conflation of words and action. It was in some ways a perfect cultural storm that led us to where we are now, where it's conventional wisdom that free speech doesn't include hate speech. which is one of the more nonsensical statements about free speech that you're ever going to hear. Well, what it's telling us is that there's free speech, and then there's the speech we don't like. And the speech we don't like shouldn't be free, as if we would need guarantees of free speech to protect the speech that everybody liked. Check out the FIRE website. Students should be aware of the school's policy before they start. They should know what the speech and harassment codes are. They should know what the disciplinary proceedings are like. They should know what the school's record is in enforcing its policies. So at least they know what to expect. And they should know that they're not in an entirely safe environment. You know, it's the irony of this effort to create these safe environments, that they're really only safe for students who share the prevailing ideology on campus and are willing to get with the program. Because for students who don't share the prevailing ideology on campus, for students who have an inclination to dissent, these are not safe environments. These are very treacherous environments, and students should be aware of that.